There's nothing to smile about today. Come on in, everybody. I have a very important discussion with you today. My apologies. Technology had me challenging myself tonight. So it took me a minute to get on, but I am here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hey there, all of my peeps from Instagram. Great to see you coming into the room. All of you who are joining me in these other spaces, great to see you too. I have Facebook, I have LinkedIn, I have YouTube, all going live at the same time. And it's important because tonight I'm going to be focusing on the impact of Trump's first 100 days on Black economic power. And what do I mean by that? I want to review key portions of the things that he's done over the first 100 days. I'm not even going to have time tonight to go point by point by point on all the things that he's done that have impacted Black people negatively. But I want to look at it from the lens of how has it impacted our Black businesses? I want to look at it through the lens of how has it impacted our employment practices and opportunities? How has it impacted the educational opportunities of our children and what they might be able to achieve? How might it impact our overarching ability to amass and retain and grow wealth in this nation? I want to look at that from all of these different perspectives because I will tell you why. And every one of the infinitum reports that you've probably seen over the past day, hell, over the past several days that have talked about the first 100 days related to Donald Trump. I don't know about you, but I have not seen one that is specifically focused on its impact on Black people. And I want you to know that there is no group of people that have been attacked in such a cohesive and overarching and holistic way as Black people over the past 100 days. I know that we are hearing a lot about the mass deportations. Absolutely. That's in the news a lot. But that's honestly one area. I am going to be showing you and talking to you tonight, not to dismiss it, it's an important area, but I want to talk with you tonight about all the multifaceted ways in which Black people have literally been in the crosshairs of this administration, how it is impacting Black businesses as we speak right now, how it is impacting Black people who have dedicated years, decades of their lives to building a career, only to see it all destroyed in the blink of an eye. I want to talk about it with regards to how it is impacting the opportunities of our children to get the educations and the opportunities that they deserve. I want to talk about it in terms of how it is impacting your ability to amass wealth, just in terms of access to home ownership and other wealth building vehicles. It has been a circular firing squad against Black people in this moment. And we're really not looking at the level of breadth of this attack. At least I have not seen it done in a satisfactory manner. So I wanted to take a minute to do it myself. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I want to welcome you to this very, very special live. I am going to ask you to share this stream. I'm going to ask you to invite other people to join us, because what I'm going to be talking about tonight, if you are Black people, if you are a Black business owner, if you are a Black person who has recently been fired because of this administration, if you are someone who is worried about your ability to just navigate the changes that are happening here with regards to your future, with your career, with your business, or maybe even just with your ability to make ends meet. If any of that is you, you need to be here, because what I'm talking about tonight is going to affect you. Most importantly, though, while I'll be reviewing all of these various different things that have been done in the past 100 days, and even many of them, I don't even think I'm gonna have time to go through all of them. I'm gonna tell you why in just a second, but I'm gonna hit some major themes, okay? I also want you to know that that's not all I'm doing. Even more importantly, and this is why I'm not going to have time to hit all of them because I don't want to spend all of my time just hitting all of those, though it will be appearing in written form probably later on this evening on my Substack. Okay. I want you to understand that what's even more important is what we're going to do about it now. And if you know that to be true, I want you to put fight back in the comments for me. Fight back. Fight back. Because here is what I know. It is very easy to get overwhelmed by all the things that are happening. It is very easy to be to have so much stuff happening all at one time that you can't even keep up with it. In fact, that is their strategy. This is literally their strategy, shock and awe strategy. Thank you. Fight back. I'm seeing it. This is literally their strategy to do so many things all at once that you will be overwhelmed, that you will give up, that you will stop paying attention, that you don't think you have the ability to do anything to fight back, so that you will just acquiesce and let them get away with all that they are doing. But what I am doing tonight is I'm sharing with you, in case you missed anything, because you very easily could have, some of the most striking things that has happened over the past 100 days, impacting you, and most importantly, what we need to do now to do what? To fight back. All right. So with that said, let's get it started. The first thing I wanted to share with you is the fact that over the course of the past 100 days, I took a few moments the other day to sit here and calculate how many things has this administration done. Thank you, Daryl. How many things has this administration done that has specifically targeted Black people? How many things? And I sat there and just researched it. How many things? And what I found was over the past 100 days, and I found an additional one since I made my post about this morning, 42. I'm up to now 42 things that this administration has done over the past 100 days that have specifically targeted advancements for Black people. 42 things. That's about one thing every 2 days, just a little over every 2 days. They've done something else to attack us, something else to attack us, something else to attack us. It is as if they are looking to inflict death by 1,000 cuts. That is exactly what's happening in this moment. And before I get into the specifics of all the things that they have done over the past 100 days, and when I say they, obviously I'm speaking specifically about Donald Trump, but I'm using the plural here, they. I'm using that specific pronoun very specifically because we all know that he's not smart enough to do all this by himself. That is not news. He had lots of help. So what I'm talking about here is not just Donald Trump. I'm talking about all of the masterminds behind Donald Trump that planned all this well in advance of him getting into the White House. So that all he had to do was sit there and sign, sit there and sign, sit there and sign, sit there and sign. In fact, he has signed more executive orders in this amount of time than any person who has inhabited the White House in the history of this nation. Because he is not interested in governing. This is his methodology of creating his own autocracy. And the Republicans who are in control of Congress are just sitting there to let him do it. If you think we have a democracy in this moment, you are freaking in la la land. Democracy has fallen. He has proclaimed himself dictator via executive action. Dictator via executive action. And at the crosshairs of his ire has been us. Now, before I sort of break down all the things that he's done, I want to put this into context because though this time is unprecedented, in many ways, I mean, we've not really seen, at least none of us have seen anything like this in our lifetimes. I want you to know that in the big sense of things, as African Americans in this country, we have been here before. we have experienced a commonality of progress followed by backlash over and over again. But what's most striking when I look back over our history is just the very short period of progress that we've experienced in relation to the oppression that we've experienced. So if you would just allow me a few moments before I get into the particulars of exactly what's happened over the past 100 years, I think it's important that we contextualize this in a historical context, especially since one of the things they've been doing over the past 100 days, I think I said years, one of the things they've been doing over the past 100 days has been attacking our history. That's one of the 42 things. In fact, it's more than one of the 42 things because they have attacked our history in several different forms. So it's actually several instances of them attacking our history. And so before I get into the specifics of all the different things that he has done over the past 100 days to attack us, I think it is critical that I start by putting this into historical context, the very history that he is trying to erase. Here is what I want you to understand. In this nation, we all know that millions of us were illegally kidnapped, trafficked, and enslaved in this nation for over 200 years. The institution of chattel slavery in this nation lasted 246 years. Millions of us endured the rapes, the beatings, the lack of freedom, obviously, the ripping apart of our families, the abuse, mental, physical, financial, all of it, the terrorism, for 246 years. Now, over the course of that 246 years, there were revolutionary actions again and again and again. And we've always fought back. In all of those instances, there were always revolts. But I want you to understand that we also were the key. We were the key that led to the victory of the Civil War in this nation. It was the Negro regiments that turned the tide of the 4-year-long Civil War. Much of that time, the Union Army wanted to refuse to allow us to fight, but we wanted to fight for our freedom. And when we were allowed, we helped to turn the tide of the war. So altogether, if you think about the 246 years of chattel slavery, the 4 years of Civil War, we were in this nation for 250 years, fighting for our freedom the entire time, and ultimately helping to create these United States of America because of the victory that we helped to create via the Civil War. There would be no America if not for us, not only due to the free labor, but also due to the victory that we provided on the battlefield. And so, in relation to the debt that was owed us, not only for our servitude, but also for the fight that we bought that allowed this nation to be a nation, 3 amendments were added to the United States Constitution specifically around our status. The 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment happened, ending slavery, granting citizenship, in fact, birthright citizenship, that specific part that is under attack right now, and also giving the right to vote to Black men for the first time ever in this country. And when they had the franchise, I want you to understand we were elected to office all across the South. We were elected to Congress. We even had governors. We took up that mantle of leadership and moved forward with it boldly. But I want you to know in that period also, there was things like Freedmen's Bureaus. There were schools that were initially built in the South. There was the Freedmen's Bank, that when we started to be able to be compensated for our labor, that's where a lot of us put our money. Now, I will say it closed and a lot of us got our money stolen. But the point is, we were beginning to get our foothold into freedom in that period. I want you to know that this first taste of freedom only lasted 12 years. 12 years. Just 12 years. Before there was a very, very close presidential election, much like what we just experienced in November. That was no huge win. That was a very close election. And as a result of the close election that happened 12 years into our freedom, there was a Rutherford B. Hayes compromise that led to the retreat of the Union Army from the South. And that ushered in the post-Reconstruction period. This is when you had an increase in terroristic activity in the South. This is when you had the establishment of Jim Crow. This is when you had the establishment of white primaries. And so, although technically, according to the Constitution, Black men could vote, Black men essentially lost their right to vote. Black women hadn't gotten it yet. This is when you had all sorts of dangerous, horrible actions in the South, the lynchings and all of that just really spiked. We experienced this very dangerous, terroristic experience in this nation for nearly another 100 years. Think about it. In the nation for 250 years, 12 years of relative freedom, and I'm still saying relative, because when you have the Black codes in that period, when you have still you have issues of sharecropping, which was just another form of slavery, if you ask me, in that period. But we had relative freedom, but just for 12 years before it was ripped away and you had this post-Reconstruction period. Interestingly, you know what else happened in the post-Reconstruction period? That's when a lot of us migrated out of the South and started Black Wall Streets. Not just in one famous Black Wall Street area, but all over the nation. There were multiple Black Wall Streets. That's when you really had a huge push towards Black economic independence. That didn't happen as much in that original Reconstruction period. It happened in the post-Reconstruction period. This is important for you to know. Why? Because I want you to understand that in the biggest moment of adversity that we had faced post-slavery, in reaction to that, we came to each other. We banded together. We built Black businesses, Black schools. We created Black wealth all across this nation in the midst of that period. So yes, we also had Jim Crow South. We also had the Civil Rights Movement. We also had all of that going on. We also had the bombings of Black Wall Streets, the murders that happened all the way from Florida to everywhere else, honestly. But I want you to understand, in this period, we at least were trying to establish a foothold in creating our own economy. So for nearly 100 years in this post-Reconstruction period, we also had the ability to fight to expand our rights. And that's when ultimately we had the Civil Rights Movement that led to two very seminal pieces of legislation, as well as some major Supreme Court rulings. But I want to talk about two pieces of legislations in particular: the 1964 Civil Rights Act and the 1965 Voting Rights Act. Those two pieces of legislation were the first pieces of legislation that really led to our full enfranchisement in this country post-slavery, since the post-Reconstruction period. So think about it. Once again, let me review this. 250 years of the horrible, violent, just disgusting, abusive version of slavery that we had here in this nation, followed by just 12 years, a dozen years in a Reconstruction period, then followed by nearly 100 more years of additional oppression. That was capped off, as I mentioned, by the 1964, 1965 Voting Rights Act, and that's when we started to finally have the ability to vote. That's when we start to have laws that made it illegal for people to discriminate against us in hiring and contracting. That just started in the 60s. Don't you let anybody tell you this is ancient history. And this is why I think it's important for us to recognize, as I have said previously, I am part of the first generation of African Americans to be born in this country fully free. I am the first one in my family to be born with voting rights. I'm the first one in my family to be born within a nation where at least it was illegal to discriminate against me. Don't let people think that this was some time way, way, way away when nobody was alive. Hell no, that's a lie. It's still recent history. This is why they don't want you to know it. This is why they're trying to destroy it. This is why they're trying to erase it. Because they don't want you to even realize how recent this progress was. And I do say was, because this last 100 days has done tremendous damage to the progress that took us nearly 400 years to make. Do you hear me? Can you imagine nearly 400 years of progress wiped away in 100 days? I am not being dramatic when I say that. I am being accurate. So when I tell you what happened in 1964 and 1965, some of the things that came out of that were things that you guys may have heard of. Fair Housing Act came out of that a little bit later on, around this time. You had affirmative action that was developed around this time. Why? Because guess what? Big surprise, the 1964 Civil Rights Act, 65 Civil Rights Act that said that you weren't supposed to discriminate. Guess what? Do you think people just immediately stopped discriminating? First of all, people have never stopped discriminating. Let me just say that. I'm just going to put that out there. But I want you to know the reason why affirmative action was needed, because people didn't want to act right when the law was passed. Do you hear me? There's a reason why there was a need for an affirmative action. Because if people just would have followed the damn law, there would not have been a need for it. But because the depth and the breadth of white supremacy, the lie of white supremacy in this nation is so pervasive that people continue to discriminate illegally. And so affirmative action was created to say you need to have some goals and some timetables to be able to make progress towards the lack of discrimination that you're supposed to be implementing. Because we all know this country has never been about merit. It never was, it never is, it ain't now. How can it be meritorious when only a small sliver of people had the ability to compete? You don't deserve it. It's just that you were the only one that was open, that was the opportunities were open to. And if you wonder why to this day that Black people tend to excel in athletics, it's because that's really the one place in America where all the rules are agreed upon before the game starts. Everybody knows what the rules are. They know what's fair, what's not fair. They have access to all sorts of witnesses. You have the judges, the referees. That is really the only place in America where you have, on the field of play, where you have fairness. But we also know that generally in terms of the institutions, there is not fairness. Hello, Shakur Sanders. Because why give up the opportunity to show that you still asses? And you will still discriminate when you have even the beginning of an opportunity to do so. Oh, really, Stephen? Enjoy. Stephen said he's watching me and Roland's show at the same time. Okay, So listen, you guys, we have made our way up from 1965 Civil Rights Act, beginning of affirmative action. Affirmative action was in place for a mere 13 years. Isn't this interesting? 13 years before the Bakke case was decided. That basically was the beginning of the end of affirmative action. So you see a pattern here. 250 years of slavery, 12 years of relative freedom with Reconstruction, then almost 100 years of post-Reconstruction, including the Jim Crow era, then 13 years post-1965 Civil Rights Act before the Bakke case, which was the beginning of the end of that expansive moment. And since that moment, 70? Make sure I'm getting the right year. That would be 78 of the Bakke case, I believe it was. Continual chipping away at affirmative action, Eventually, we even stopped using the term, basically. I want you to understand that the reason why there was ever a need for DEI, which has been the R of this particular administration, among other things, is because it's all about making people to do what they would not do naturally in order to contort with the value of not discriminating against people. You need to understand that in this nation, the reflex is discrimination. The reflex is discrimination. How else can you explain how you can have all these hundreds of years of oppression followed by only about 12 years of expansion of rights, only for that to be stopped with more oppression? But what I'm telling you right now is, over the course of that time, we've had since then a presidential election that made people believe that discrimination was over in terms of the election of Barack Obama. A lie, but people believed it. And it also scared a lot of people. That created another backlash effect, if you ask me. In addition, in that same period of time, around that same period of time, a little bit later, obviously you had the whole George Floyd murder, Black Lives Matter movement. All of those things were happening in recent history, but particularly as it related to George Floyd, everything caught on tape was so just inhuman that there was some level of correction, one could say, where you have company after company after company proclaiming a commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. You know what happens when you make things more fair? When you make things more fair, people who have undeserved privileges get less because they shouldn't have been there in the first damn place. Period. If it was fair, they wouldn't have been there in the first damn place. Period. And when you have a sense of entitlement, because you've always gotten a thing, because you've never had to compete against a full array of competition like you would if you were on the playing field of a sport, right? When you could sort of have conversations, backdoors, and good old boy networks, and helping your, all of the different things that you do to help people get into places where they don't belong. When you cut that back and say, no, you actually have to consider other people that actually may be more qualified than you, then guess what? People don't like that. And this is what we're experiencing right now. If you need any more proof that what we're seeing now is the reality of what it looks like to have countless unqualified people in positions of power running this country in the ground, then I have to tell you, you need to pay closer attention because that's exactly what's going on. Yet I digress. I'm taking you all up until present day. Now let's talk about what happened with this particular close election. When this particular close election happened, we're having a similar ripping away of rights at a scale that I have not seen, historically speaking, since the Rutherford B. Hayes Compromise. This is like another post-Reconstruction period for Black America. As I mentioned at the onset, I have counted over 40 different anti-Black actions that's been taken by this administration since Trump stepped foot into office. That works out to over one action about every 2 days to strip away your rights, to strip away your opportunities, to strip away your wealth, to undermine your business success, to undermine your employment possibilities, to undermine your ability to grow wealth, to undermine the opportunities for your children to succeed. Cut after cut after cut after cut. And over the course of that time, let me just give you an overarching overview of what we've seen. Because literally, I could sit here and read them all. I have them all written down. All the things, look at that. All the things that have happened, each one of them happening in the first 100 days. But let's talk about just a few here. His very first day in office, his very first act was to attack diversity, equity, and inclusion. Attack it on a federal scale, calling it illegal when it is not, creating executive orders, eliminating departments all across the federal government that focused on DEI, immediately putting on hold, basically sending home all DEI professionals throughout the federal government, immediately canceling contracts that had to do with DEI, and ultimately followed that up by not just canceling contracts, literally blacklisting people who had contracts or had ever worked on a DEI project for the federal government. Eliminating DEI offices across the government. Just the very first act. Now, I want you to understand, why would that be the first act? This was never mentioned during the campaign. This was not something he campaigned on. It seemingly came out of the blue. But I want you to understand, who are you dealing with here? Not just him, but with the people all around him. I want you to see that sometimes things are exactly what they seem to be. I want you to understand that sometimes things are exactly what they seem to be. This is the same person who in his first term, the very first thing he did was not go after DEI, but you know what he did? He canceled funding to any programs that were meant to attack white supremacist organizations throughout the country. That was his very first action in his very first term. Put those two acts together, and what does it seem like to you in terms of who is inhabiting the White House and what their priorities are? Are you getting this? Is this making sense? Now you might say, okay, why should I care? I've heard the statistics. Most people in DEI aren't Black. First of all, let me just say this. That statistic talks about chief diversity officers. That is not all people who in any way function in a DEI role. Number one. Number two, it's not just about DEI professionals. Because what we have seen since this action is exactly what I predicted when this happened. DEI is not just about people who are doing DEI trainings. DEI is about programs that companies have in place to make them or to encourage them to have a more diverse slate of candidates from which to choose. And if they are not forced to do that, guess what they start to do? They start to do the things that they were doing when the 1965 Civil Rights Act found, when we found then that it wasn't enough to make people do the right shit. That they revert back to discrimination. They revert back to only considering those people that are in their own social networks. They revert back to having only, honestly, white candidates or white male candidates that are seen to be worthy of consideration. And here we are a couple of months in, and that's exactly what the data is telling us. You don't have to be a DEI professional to be hurt by the loss of DEI. Yep. You're exactly right, Stephen. You're impacted when these programs are gone because it says that we can just rely on the good old boys network, and that's good enough. Another thing I want you to understand is that when you have this happening, not too long after, followed by the Department of Justice putting out basically a directive that they would criminally go after private organizations that maintain their DEI programs, causing several of them to eliminate theirs. Now you're talking about supplier diversity programs being eliminated. Now that means it becomes that much more difficult for Black businesses to get contracts in private industry. So they're not just impacting the success and the potential and the opportunities that are there for Black businesses in the federal government. They're also impacting the success and the potential and the opportunities that are there for Black businesses in private industry. In one fatal swoop. All of that was done through that initial executive order that he signed on the very first day. Black people were in the crosshairs from day one in this administration, and it did not stop there. They froze minority business grant programs on day one. On day two, they signed Executive Order 14173, which ended the practice of making discrimination in federal contracts and hiring illegal. Please hear me on this. First two priorities: eliminate DEI across the federal government. Also, within that executive order, put in their language to threaten corporations, claiming that it's illegal. So in this way, he's going after Black businesses, Black business owners, and even hiring prospects in the way in which DEI is implemented. And then on day two, he explicitly signs an executive order that in essence makes it legal, not even in essence, it makes it legal to discriminate in federal contracting and hiring. Just 2 freaking days in. 2 days out of 100. Hey there, Mama Dooley. I'm so sorry. I can't pronounce Mama Diallo. Mama Diallo. I hope I'm pronouncing that correct. Correct. How you doing? Okay. Wow. They fired a database administrator because one of his databases tracked HR diversity goals, fired for doing 10% of his job. I believe it, Daryl. Hey there, Maria. You're exactly right. It was the Project 2025 playbook. Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. Hey, Jill. How you doing, Sora? But what is oh my God, Jill, leave it to my Sora to ask a very important question. That is not a stupid question, Jill. That's a brilliant question. Lord have mercy. Get me started on this one, okay? My Sora Jill asks, might be a stupid question, and it is not, but what is the Black Caucus doing in the midst of all this? Not a damn thing that's worthwhile. Not a damn thing that's worthwhile. When all this was going on initially, I'm just in day one and day two, y'all. Okay, out of 100. We were the first things, we're the first people attacked, even before they started all the deportations. I want you to understand, we were the first attacked. And you know what they did? Not a damn thing, Jill. Not a damn thing. Not a damn thing. Quiet as a church mouse. As all of these rights that our people fought and bled and died for were completely stripped away. Said nothing. A couple of weeks in, you had was it Al Green, who had fame during the faux State of the Union address with his cane. He announced impeachment papers due to Trump's statements on Gaza. But not a word about this. Absolutely not, Daryl. Complete motherfucker. I'm sorry. I'm just furious about it. I'm furious about it. I'm furious about it. Nothing. And they would not be there if it were not for this. But they did nothing to even let people know what was going on when it was happening in real time. I was more vocal about it than they were. I'm still more vocal about it than they are. Okay. So that's my answer to that question. Okay. Day 2, that's specifically revoked affirmative action requirements. Once again, so the rescinded Executive Order 11246. That specifically is the executive order that established affirmative action, which is just the order that says you must have goals and timetables about diversifying your hiring practices and your contracting opportunities. So what this did was, when they rescinded that, it's a 60-year-old civil rights era executive order, okay, which prohibited federal contractors for discriminating based on race, color, religion, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, national origin, also foundational to for the Office of Federal Contract Compliance Programs. In essence, it's legal to discriminate again. I guess that's what they meant by make America great again, make America free of laws against discrimination again, because that's what he did. Okay? That's that. Went on to, let's see, we're still in the first, this is still just the second day, y'all. Let's keep on moving, because there's more things. I'm not going to have time to go through all 40 some tonight, because I want to get to what we're going to do about it. But let's hit on some other highlights. The rest of the week. Okay. This is still week 1 of his administration for 7 days. Department of Justice announces a program to conduct DEI investigations in private industry. They removed all diversity metrics from federal contracting. And guess what happens when you remove diversity metrics? Just generally speaking, we all know this as adults who, possibly do anything that you care about. What gets measured gets done. What doesn't get measured doesn't get done. That's the bottom line. So when you don't no longer require metrics, when you no longer require people to keep data about what they're doing, guess what? They do whatever the fuck they want to do. Okay? Crazy. Okay? Still week 1. Suspension of minority business development programs. Oh, by the way, later on, I haven't got there yet. Later on, they completely ended the Minority Business Development Agency. They completely ended it. 100 employees were part of that agency, which was responsible for providing access to capital and contracting opportunities for Black business owners and others. Okay. But that was an agency that had 100 employees. They effectively eliminated it. It's now down to just 1. So you might as well, it's eliminated. Billions of contracting opportunities lost immediately with that action. Okay. Higher education DEI programs were restricted. Week 2. Now he's starting to focus on higher education. He's starting to threaten primarily PWIs, predominantly white institutions around their diversity programs. So what does that mean, you guys? Let me just sort of break this down. That means he wants to make sure that they are eliminating any programs that those universities might have in place that would incentivize them to have more diversified class brought into the university. He wants to eliminate any programs that would have those programs have any sort of access to any sort of scholarships that might be focused on people of color. He wants to eliminate any sort of opportunities that, special opportunities they might have in terms of, I don't know, even like groups. Some people even question, does this even include having the existence of Black fraternities and sororities on those institutions? Does this include having Black student unions on those institutions? It might even, like many universities have like these bridge programs that they help students of color form study groups and things like that. Eliminate it. Okay. We're just in week 2. Okay. K through 12 curriculum restrictions on cultural content. So basically in this week also, they're going after elementary and secondary education about Black history and others. Okay. They wanted them to eliminate quote unquote DEI in the curriculum, which basically is about, because we know what is that? They don't even know, but that's their excuse for trying to get away from telling the truth about our history. Okay. In that same week, they reduced fund. There we go. So in doing that, they were going to eliminate funding for those programs. Okay. Starting week 3, we're still in, now we're in February. That's when they began restructuring the Civil Rights Division of the DOJ. And as of last week, it's reported that basically it's been completely eliminated. It's like a bloodbath. They've completely reassigned lawyers that were there, that their whole job was to enforce civil rights law. Everything from voting rights law to hate crimes investigations to investigations around police brutality, like all of those types of things that the Civil Rights Division would normally do, they will no longer do, at least not under this administration. Okay, they've reassigned those lawyers. They've put in there his minions, and their focus are going to be on attacking anyone that practices DEI, for example. Okay. More. Oh, this is a doozy. They ended the funding for enforcement of federal fair housing, of the Fair Housing Act. So basically, they eliminated the ability to enforce the Fair Housing Act, which basically means then you might as well not even have the act. Like, he's not, as an executive, first of all, he's not supposed to be doing anything with all of this stuff. With the funding is illegal. Let me step back for a minute and share this. Everything that's going on with Doge, everything that you're hearing about, something about funding eliminated, departments eliminated, those types, all of that is illegal. According to the Constitution, only the Congress have the power of the purse strings. The fact that there is any one person that's running around firing people, eliminating budgets, eliminating entire departments without the approval of Congress is freaking illegal. Yet they do it anyway. And this is why I'm so frustrated with Democrats, because they've just sat there and they had to piss poor. I know they didn't have the power to change it, but they could have done a better job of letting people know about this in real time. Many of you're probably hearing about some of this for the first time. They roll back diversity requirements when it came to the banking sector. Like, oh God, it's so easy for us to get loans that we actually qualified for. So easy to get loans to start your business. It's so easy to get treated fairly when you're trying to get a mortgage for your house. Now they just made it that much harder. Okay. They've now, as of where are we at now? In March. Let's start going in March. I'm skipping over a few things to get through faster. They specifically eliminated all workforce diversity targets for the federal government. Yeah, absolutely. The government contractor segregation. Oh, they also get this, you guys. The same month in March, the first week of March, he also signed an executive order that no longer made it illegal to have in place segregation if you have contracts with the federal government. So actually, in essence, it's okay with him if you decide that you want to implement segregation. Now, I will say right now, the 1964 Civil Rights Act is still in place. So practically, technically, that that supersedes this. But why the hell would you do that? Can somebody explain to me why you would go out of your way to create an executive order that says it's okay to have segregation? Who does that? I tell you who does. In March also is when they really went on a tear with removing Black history examples from Arlington Cemetery, from the Department of Defense website, from a Pentagon-wide diversity purge happened in terms of their website and content. The Veteran Affairs diversity programs were cut. All of this was happening in March. Well, let me be very specific. The second week in March. That's not the whole month. It just happened in 1 week. Okay. Third week in March. That's when they started to focus on the African American History Museum and said, we don't want that. So they started to target that, cut funds, and say that they wanted to change the content to be more American. They started to implement historic narrative restrictions, started to look to other ways in which they could cut educational funding for outreach programs. Also in March, Department of Defense military recruitment diversity target were removed. You might also remember they put in place a specific initiative that in essence discriminated against Black men, to say that if you had a skin condition that gave you in essence bumps, that you could be fired, you could be discharged from the military because of that. And we all understand that because of the way our hair grows, that a lot of Black men suffer from breakouts when they shave because the hair follicle goes back into their skin. That now is reason to lose your job in the military. That's what you call a race neutral directive that has a race specific result. I'm not even mentioning all the people that they fired. Let me go back to that, because that's been happening all along the way. Okay, there's not just any 1 day or 1 week for that. They've literally fired, I believe the number now is over 50,000 people throughout the federal government. And that disproportionately impacts Black people. Black people make up a disproportionate number of federal employees. Why? Because if I go back to the history that I just set for you at the very beginning, how we had the 250 years of enslavement, followed by 12 years of relative freedom, followed by almost 100 years of of Jim Crow and oppression, followed by 13 years of relative freedom post the Civil Rights Movement and the enactment of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, Voting Rights Act, the 1965, no, Civil Rights Act, the 1965 Voting Rights Act. Now you're in this space where we are finally getting a little bit of freedom, and here we go. Chipped away, chipped away, chipped away, chipped away the entire time. Okay. Other things that they've done, it's so much. Like I said, I'm going to create a list and like publish this. I have the list here, but I'm going to publish it probably on my Substack channel. They also eliminated an environmental justice program, suit. It was a settlement that happened in Alabama where there was basically a Black community where the sewage in that area was being drained down to that community and causing all sorts of health problems, as you would imagine. There was a lawsuit, there was a settlement. They rolled that back. So they just want to, once again, have those people be subject to all sorts of illnesses because of that. they have continued to attack other institutions. As you know, Harvard, they've continued, and Harvard's fighting back. Okay. The bottom line is this is just sort of like some top examples. But when they focus on our workers, I want you to understand that they are doing that very specifically. In that, as I was saying before, the federal government was one of the first places that, coming out of the civil rights movement, people could be less likely to be discriminated against in hiring. And so we went to the federal government as an entree to the middle class. So when they're going after federal workers, know that they're also going after the Black middle class. When they're going after Black business owners, know that they're also going after the Black business middle class and up. This is their way to decimate the economy of Black people. And when they're going after educational opportunities for our children, know that they're trying to shut the door on the opportunities that our children will have in this future. This is an all-out assault, multifaceted assault against Black people's economic power today and opportunity for economic empowerment tomorrow. That is what we are facing right now. So, what do we need to do about it? And I need to say that because I've already been on way too long. What do we need to do about it? Obviously, we need to fight back. What does that look like? I think the best way that we can fight back is to think about when was the last time we saw something similar to this and what did we do to win in that moment immediately. As I talked with you about the history, I told you Black Wall Street grew up during the period of the post-Reconstruction era. When we were experiencing a backlash, we went inward and we grew our own economies. We grew our own businesses. We supported our own businesses. And we found a way to thrive in that space. We thrived so much doing that it made the people around us who weren't doing as well, because they weren't as smart and intuitive and apparently disciplined that those business owners were and those communities were, they got so jealous. That's what led to the attacks on Black Wall Streets around the nation. But the thing is, today, we have the ability to fight back to protect ourselves. So what does it look like in terms of a contemporary fight? Number one, it means, given everything that's happening right now, every last one of you in the sound of my voice, you need to have the ability to write your own checks. You need to have the ability to make your own money. You need to have the ability to have your own business in whole or in part. In whole or in part, you have to find a way in which you can have additional revenue streams coming into your house. Why? If you're a federal worker, you know you need to have something else coming in because you never know what they're going to do. If you're not a federal worker, I would still say you need to have something else coming in because honestly, this economy, it is looking challenging and companies are going to be making decisions about their workforce. You need to have something else coming in. If you are someone who already has a business, you need to figure out how you can make it, you can safely navigate it to success in this time. The reality is this is a more challenging time to do business. I am not going to sugarcoat that at all. It is harder now to do business. Consumer confidence, honestly, is low. People are concerned about whether or not they'll have a job. People are concerned about how much they're going to be impacted by the tariffs in terms of the prices of things. And so it's taking longer for people to make buying decisions. And they're being more selective when making buying decisions. So if you do have a business right now, you need to understand how to calibrate it and how to make the right shifts in your business right now so you can still have a business a month from now, a year from now, 10 years from now, and be able to take care of yourself and your family. The bottom line is that we need to create our own economies. We need to create our own economy. It's about collective economics and it's about individual economics. It's about understanding how to be able to stack your cash in this moment. How do you gain the ability to grow a business, to bring in additional revenue streams into your household? Is there somebody that agrees with me? If you think that makes sense to you, I want to see more money in the chat. Okay. More money, more money, more money. That needs to be your mantra right now. It's not just about saving money. It's about bringing more money in to your space right now. That needs to be priority number one. Okay. Number two, we need to be able to create our own information networks and our own monetizable networks so that we can have access to the information that we need to grow and be successful, and so that we can support one another in the growth of our businesses. Those to me are the three things that we really need to be able to focus on right now. Figure out how to bring in more money, more revenue streams, more money into your household on a regular basis. And if that means starting a business, that means starting it. If that means growing your business, that means growing it. But you need to figure out right now, what am I going to do to bring in more money? And I would be more, let me be even more specific. Especially with this tariff situation going on right now, it needs to be a knowledge-based business and not a product-based business. Because we all know that you're going to have to be paying more for your products in this moment, given the tariff situation. So you need to learn how to sell based on what you know, not on what you can buy and resell, especially in this moment. One thing I can tell you about what's going to make the difference between whether or not you will survive this moment or not is the ability to which your business is going to be able to adapt, turn on a dime, be able to shift, to be able to be successful in this space. You cannot do what you did 5 years ago right now as a business owner, even if you're very successful, and still win in this economy. You have to be willing to let some things go and do different things to win in this different moment. And so if that is you, if you know you need to learn how to start a business right now, if you know you need to learn how to grow a business right now, if you know you need to be around a network of other people who are doing the same things and are helping you to understand how to connect and get tapped into the information that you need to be successful in this moment, or just the encouragement of understanding what it takes to survive in this moment, right? And perhaps even helping one another in this moment, buying from one another in this moment, then I have good news for you. I want you to know that I have created such a space that I want to invite you to take advantage of. It's called the Revolutionary Vanguard. And it is an incredible membership opportunity that's specifically crafted for this moment. If you've ever thought about having a business and you know now is the time to do it, then you need to be in the Revolutionary Vanguard. How you doing, Wendell? If you already have a business, but you're finding right now that it's challenging, that what was working yesterday is no longer working today, then you need to be in the Revolutionary Vanguard. If you're someone that says, I know that this is a moment in which I really need to understand what are the key things that I need to do in order to monetize my knowledge in this moment. So I'm not trying to make money based on selling tchotchkes that now cost a whole lot more because of the tariffs, then you need to be in the Revolutionary Vanguard. And the beautiful thing about the Revolutionary Vanguard is that it's a space in which you will have continuous access to me on a weekly basis to help make all of that happen. All right. So what do we do in the Vanguard? Number one, brand new announcement about the Vanguard. If I have any Vanguard members on here right now, congratulations. This is brand new. You didn't even know about this. Okay. But starting next week, we are starting a brand new series in the Vanguard called the Six Figure Foundation series. I have several training series in there already in terms of the membership, but this is a brand new training series, and I'm going to start week by week by week by week. A new training will be added to this training series. Well, I'll be teaching you right now what you need to know to go from 0 to 6 figures in your business as exponentially as possible, especially given this moment. Why is this important? As I've always said, and I don't know how much you guys know about me. Some of you know me, have known me for years, so you know my story. 7-figure business owner, got my first 7 during the pandemic, hit 7 figures in 8 months during that time when I took advantage of that crisis and turned it into an opportunity. I want you to know that this is another crisis that you can turn into an opportunity as well when you take advantage of it with people who can show you how. And Six Figure Foundation series that I'll be starting off next week in the Vanguard is specifically meant to help you with that. Why? Here's my belief. My belief is that 6 figures is not the destination in your business. It is a milestone, though. It is a very important milestone. You have to get your first 6 and understand how to get there before you can get even further and ultimately get beyond that. But right now, especially, it's about being able to bring enough money into your life outside of your job, if you already have one, such that if anything ever happened to your job, you would be okay. Your family would be okay. Your children would be okay. This gives you the tools that you need in order to make that happen. But in addition to that, you'll have weekly co-working sessions with me as we are implementing based on what you're learning each and every week. You'll also have access with regards to other training, live trainings and fireside chat opportunities where I'll bring in experts and sometimes myself, just even teaching you additional skills that you'll need to know around branding, marketing, sales, all the things that you need to do to grow a successful business. You'll even have access to live networking opportunities that will be starting off this spring and summer so you can meet in person, because your net worth is even more importantly now you're connected to your net worth. Your network is even more importantly now connected to your net worth. Because here's what I want you all to understand. We're going to need each other right now in this moment more than ever. Do you know why they're going after our history? Do you know why they keep harping on DE&I? They want to undermine your credibility. They want people to take one look at you and believe that you don't belong. We know it's a lie. But I want us to get to a place where we don't need them. I want you to get to a place where you know how to create your own revenue in your own way, doing what you want to do with or without them. And that's what we focus on in the Revolutionary Vanguard. If you've ever thought about starting a business, you need to be there. Now, here's the best part. I have worked with people over the years, and honestly, in the high ticket space. I've worked with people very intensely over years, like a year-long periods, and I've had people work with me, honestly, for several years. Investments at $25,000 or $50,000 per year to work with me. But the beautiful thing about the Vanguard is that it does not take that. I know that right now I need to be able to touch the masses. I know that right now I need to be able to help as many people as humanly possible. I know right now I need to create a way to help thousands of you be able to create a way out of no way in this time where there is so much at stake and there's so many attacks and there's so much that's being done to undermine your success. And so to make this accessible, literally, to as many of you as possible, I've provided the opportunity to work with me as part of this experience for only $97 per month, or one payment of $997. Now, for those who pay for the year, this is annual in terms of an annual membership. There is a special group VIP day that I offer for the first 5 people who do that. But otherwise, it's $97 a month, no contract, no commitment. You could stop and say, it's not for me whenever you like. But I will say this, you owe it to yourself to at least get in that space and see what's possible for you in order to be able to provide a path towards revenue generation for yourself and for your family in this critical moment. So if you know that you need to understand how to start a business, how to grow a business, how to get to your first six figures in your business, especially right now in this crazy time, when you are under attack, when your family's under attack, when your children are under attack, then I want to invite you to join me in the Revolutionary Vanguard. All you have to do is go to revolutionaryvanguard.com, therevolutionaryvanguard.com, and go ahead and secure your spot. I'm going to put it right here, but it's also, it is also on the top there. All right. So with that, I'm gonna go. I'm not gonna stay much longer because I've already been on here, God, over an hour. I did not mean to stay this long, okay? But I do want you to know, if you know that in the midst of all these attacks, you need to do what you need to do to make sure that you have access to the knowledge, the information, the live feedback, the community, the experience that you need to get to the other side of this challenge successfully with more money in your pocket, more money in your accounts, more money at your disposal, okay? Then you need to join me in the Revolutionary Vanguard. I have to say, I'm excited to be able to open this opportunity to you. I want you to take advantage of it, and I want you to do it now because we have so much going on in there immediately that could be of help to you, and so much more that's coming down the pipe. All right. So with that said, I want to thank you all for joining me this evening. I hope that you got a little bit from this. I hope that this is something that if you were thinking of starting a business, I want you to understand, instead of wasting time trying to figure out on your own, $97 is all you need in order to get the guidance that you need to start making the right steps in the right directions to get the right returns for your time and efforts. Now is the time to get paid. Now is the time to secure your future. Now is the time to secure your children's future. And honestly, you cannot depend on anyone else to do that for you except for you. You have to be willing to do it for you. But the most expedited way is to get the guidance that you need from somebody who's been there, done that time and time again, even in a time of crisis. And that's exactly what I'm extending to you with the opportunity to join me in the Revolutionary Vanguard. With that said, I want to say thank you so much for joining me tonight. I look forward to seeing you all in the Vanguard. Basically, when you click on it, you'll get all the information if you go ahead and secure your spot tonight. You can then go ahead from there. You can immediately be in the membership portal tonight and start going through trainings immediately. You don't even have to wait. Okay. You can start tonight doing what you need to do in order to secure your future. With that said, I hope you all have a wonderful evening, and I will check with you all back later. Okay, you guys, I hope you all have a great evening. Thanks for jumping on, and I will see you all later. Take care, everybody. Bye.